Or 6 feet long, but those are females. They don't have any horns. They'd be pretty noticeable that size. Also on both sides, you'll see some dark reddish brown animals. These are bongo. Bongo are known as the ghosts of the forest because they are so rarely seen. Their horns are tilted backwards so that when they run through the brush, nothing gets tangled up in those horns. Males' horns go straight back, whereas females' horns actually cross and make an X on top of their head. As you can tell which are which. Pretty cool. But you can see just how well these animals do blend in out here. Sometimes they are the exact same color as their surroundings. And it looks like everything else out here is doing a better job at hiding than we are at finding, but that's alright. We have found a small stream, and that means we're probably getting pretty close to the Safi River. There have been a lot of hippo sightings over there recently, so let's go check it out and see if we can find any. Now, I would recommend keeping your eyes on the water when we get there, because hippos do spend most of their days submerged and can hold their breath for up to 8 minutes at a time. They're actually nocturnal animals, so while they spend most of their day just taking naps under the water, avoiding that hot sun, at night they'll come out and graze along the banks of the river. Oh, there's one. Still poking its head out. They can weigh up to 5,500 pounds. Well, only eat about 80 to 90 pounds of food a day, which is not a lot for their body size. They also have very large teeth, but they're not much help when they're eating because they are vegetarians. Their teeth are used more for defense. They're very territorial and are considered the most dangerous animal in Africa. And a group of hippos like this is called a float. And they don't really swim, they just walk or run right along the bottom of the river or float right on the top. Those birds on the island are pink-backed pelicans. They get their name because during mating season they get a pinkish coloration. They nest in groups of 20 up to 500 birds, which is called a pod. Making that a pod of pink pelicans. But my favorite thing about hippos is the noise that they make. It's called a wheeze honk. And it's exactly what you'd imagine it would sound like. But each wheeze honk is unique to each hippo. That's how they can tell who's talking. Some are wheeze honk, some are honk wheeze. Just a wheeze, just a honk. You get the idea. But with it over to the left, those are Nile crocodile.
Mira los cocodrilos.
Now a crocodile can grow to be as long as a giraffe is tall. They can also hold their breath for up to 2 hours at a time if they remain inactive. And that's how they catch a lot of their prey. They just stay very, very still underneath the water, wait for their prey to get close enough to them, and then they snap. That's a lot more effective than chasing those animals down because they can only run about 10 miles an hour, whereas a lot of the other animals out here can run upwards of 30 miles an hour. But even 10 miles an hour is faster than a human can run. Now we're going to be heading out into the savannah next, but before we go, I always like to pause and point out that tree on the right. That's a baobab tree. It's also known as an upside-down tree because its branches kind of look like a root system. They only have leaves one season out of the year and can live to be 2,000 years old. And their trunks do store quite a bit of water, so when it gets dry out here, elephants like to gouge out the bark and they'll drink right from the trunk of the tree. That does happen pretty often. There isn't always a lot of water readily available out here. It is an African savanna. And speaking of, this beautiful landscape is the Africa that we're trying so hard to preserve. And it is naturally maintained by the animals that live out here. Giraffe act like tree trimmers, eating any lower hanging leaves that they can reach. That's why you'll see all the leaves kind of cut off at a certain height. That's about giraffe plus giraffe tongue height, which is an extra 1.5 feet. Elephants act like bulldozers. They knock over trees and rip off branches. They eat the bark, but that lets the sunlight in to help the grass grow. Then antelope come through and mow that grass down. It's very well balanced. And over to the right, just behind that pile of branches, you'll see a whole herd of silver animals. Those are white-bearded wildebeest. There's also one little springbok who thinks he's a wildebeest over there, but we're going to ignore him for now. Now, wildebeest, they do have the most densely packed herds out of any animal other than humans. They also have the farthest migration pattern, and their migration includes about 1.5 million animals. Their name in Afrikaans means wild beast, but they're also known as Nu, spelled G-N-U, and that mimics the sound that they make. Conga cows move a lot lower. Speaking of cows, over to the right, those are Ankoli cattle. Their horns can grow to be 4 to 5 feet long. They look really heavy, but they're actually pretty light. They're honeycombed on the inside, and their blood flows there to help cool them off, sort of like a natural air conditioner. And then over to the left are some African wild dogs. Little orange and black and white spotted animals laying in the shade by the bushes. Now, as cute and cuddly as they look while they're sleeping, they are really dangerous. They're one of the best hunters out here. When hunting, those little dogs have a success rate of 90%. whereas lions only have a 10% success rate. In fact, they are better hunters than lions, cheetahs, and hyenas combined. They hunt in packs to take down animals much larger than they are, and their bite can break bones, just like a Nile crocodile. So they're not exactly a lapdog. They're also a little bit more closely related to foxes than to your dogs at home, and they're also known as painted dogs because their coats kind of looks like somebody splashed some paint on them. Each dog's coat is unique to that dog. Also over to the left, the coppery animals laying down in the shade there, those are sable antelope. They are the emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve because they are so fiercely protective. And that's what we need to do. Protect these animals. Next we'll be driving in between some tall spires of dirt. These are termite mounds. They bake in the sun until they're as hard as cement, and then elephants like to use them as scratching posts. Once they're all worn down from elephants, smaller animals like the springbok will hop up on there and use them as lookouts for lions in the tall grass. On average, they're about 8 feet tall, but there have been some recorded that are 30 feet high in more tropical areas. As a reference, giraffes are around 20 feet tall, so that's a giraffe and a half. And they're very well organized. They have a lot of different rooms in there. There's room for food, room for the queen, or room for water which collects on the spout. It's like a little mansion in there. And they're made out of dirt, dung, and termite spit, so not a mansion I want to live in. And since termites are very small, it takes them quite a while to build that up. In fact, they only build about 1 inch per year. And then elephants come through and scratch the hard work away. Pretty devastating for the termites, but it all does contribute to the ecosystem. You'll see more Ankoli cattle over here on both sides. They're also known as Watusi cattle after the first tribe to domesticate them, and they are the only domesticated animal here on the reserve. And even though they're cattle, they're not really used for their dairy or even their meat. They're more used as symbols of wealth. So the more Ankoli cattle you have on your farm, the wealthier you are. And the solid brown ones are worth more than the spotted ones are. Just a little tip. Now, a lot of the animals that live out here are crepuscular, which means they are most active in the early morning and early evening. The middle of the day like this when it's at its hottest out is when they tend to just hang out in the shade, lie down, take naps. That way they don't overexert themselves on the heat. So just keep your eyes over this bit of shade. That's probably where they're going to be hanging out. I'm going to introduce you a whole tower of giraffes up here. They're going to be in between the trees on the left-hand side. A couple little baby giraffe in there too. And these are all Maasai giraffe. You can tell because their spots have almost a lacy pattern to them, but there are 9 different species of giraffe. They are the tallest animal in the world, but have the same amount of vertebrae in their necks as humans do. 7. They also have the highest blood pressure out of any animal, and their heart is 2 feet long and weighs 25 pounds. Over to the right are some more springbok. When they get scared, they jump into the air repeatedly, about 6 feet high. It's called bronking. They can also spring 13 feet forward and run 50 to 60 miles an hour, making them one of the top 10 fastest animals on the savannah. And those were all fully grown adult springbok, able to weigh up to 100 pounds. They're pretty cute. Now the things on top of giraffes' heads, they're called ossicones. They kind of look like horns, but they're just bones covered in fur. Well, also to the left, you'll see some tan antelope in the tall grasses. Those are Patterson's eland. They are the largest of the antelope species. Males can stand up to 6 feet tall at the shoulder, and they can all jump 6 to 8 feet in the air from a standstill. Pretty impressive, especially considering the males can weigh up to 2,000 pounds. Well, those are 2 females back there, a little bit smaller. Back to giraffes. Like I said, the things over their heads called ossicones, and their tongue is 18 inches long and black in color to prevent it from getting sunburnt. It's also prehensile, which means it can wrap around leaves and younger shoots on trees. They'll pluck them off if they eat. And you may be thinking, why does a giraffe's tongue need to be sunburn proof? Well, they do eat for about 20 hours out of the day. I know, they're living the dream and they still keep that lean figure. And then there are a lot of knocked over trees and branches over here. That's a good sign elephants have come through, so just keep your eyes out. We are going to be heading into elephant country. They also have been seeing a family of mandrills running around here recently, so we've been calling this area Monkey Point. Mandrills are the largest monkey in the world, and they're distinguished by their brightly colored faces, which get even brighter when they get excited. Males can weigh up to 100 pounds. That's pretty big for a monkey, and they're one of the only species, other than humans, that can communicate using facial expressions and body language. They're pretty smart. Yeah, over to the left is a whole family of mandrills. There's the male over here, and then some females and babies kind of balancing the trees as well. If you see them baring their teeth at each other, that's a symbol of friendship. It's kind of like a human smile. But you'll usually see them grooming each other. It's a very important part of the day because it helps to strengthen the group social bonds. And then all the way up to the right There's an elephant. That's most likely a male elephant. They tend to travel by themselves, whereas females will travel in a big herd with all the kids. Males are a bit bigger than females are, by about 2,000 to 4,000 pounds if they're fully grown, and that animal up there is about 15,000 pounds. They do have one of the longest childhoods of any animal, about 15 years, before males will wander away and get kicked out of the herd. Sometimes they'll join a small bachelor group, but usually, like I said, just travel around by themselves. The only animal with a longer childhood is a human. Sometimes they'll never leave. Yeah, right around age 15, those boys get a bit too rambunctious to be around the females and the kids anymore. So the girls chase them away and they'll just follow around at a safe distance. When they cross paths with a different herd, they'll follow that herd onset and catch up around mating season. It is the females that lead the herd around, so the boys really don't know where they're going, especially when they first get kicked out. So they spend most of their lives just following the girls around. And it looks like we have found some red clay bits, which is probably why that elephant is hanging around. They get a lot of the nutrients they need from this red clay. They use it kind of like a multivitamin and just supplement their diet whenever they need to. And it looks like there are a lot of tusk marks in the clay over here, a lot of footprints as well. That might even mean there's a herd of elephants around, so let's see if we can find any more. Well, I do see some over there, but I think we can get a little bit closer. Now, elephants are the largest animal in the world, but they do have very sensitive skin and can get sunburnt just like we can. So they use their trunks to pick up dirt, mud, clay, whatever they can find really, and they toss it on their backs to act like a natural sunscreen for them. Their trunks are also really impressive. They have about 100,000 different muscles in them, so they're very agile and strong. Their trunks are kind of like a mixture of an upper lip and a nose, and they have 2 fingertip-like projections at the end to help them feel around and pick up smaller items. They can also hold 5 gallons of water in them, whether it's to drink or to splash themselves. And a group of elephants like this can be called a herd, but it can also be called a parade, just like in the Jungle Book.